Good evening, everyone. Catherine, thank you for co-hosting.
You're so welcome.
Can you all hear me? Okay,
You sound
great.
good?
You're a little soft when you speak, Catherine, just in case, just for future reference.
I'll turn it up. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
evening, everyone.
Anyway, as long as we're saying hello, maybe as you wish, as you're willing, put your cameras on and unmute and say hi to each other. Maybe even say where you're calling in from so people can get a feeling for the circle of affection, wide Sangha.
Isabel from Pacifica.
Hey, Isabel, welcome.
Cecilia
Hi,
from
Karen
Scottsdale.
Hey,
Hi from El
Cecilia.
Cerrito.
Who's in Sausalito?
So El Cerrito, Karen and
El
Francisco.
Cerrito. Hi, Karen.
Hi. Francisco.
Here's Francisco.
Hello, San Francisco.
Phoenix.
Helen in Oakland.
Hey, Mary. Good
Hi.
to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Howard from Roberts Creek, BC.
Hey, Howard. Glad to see you.
Me too.
Keith from Berkeley.
Hey, Keith.
Paul from Penn Valley.
From Zimbabwe?
Penn Valley, California.
Oh, Tampa. Welcome.
Rebecca, San Francisco.
Hey, Rebecca. Good to see you.
Stewart from San
Dan in San Rafael.
Hey, Dan.
I'm
Glad to see you.
Samira from Phoenix, Arizona.
Hi, Samira. Glad you're with us.
Hi.
Glenn from Palm Desert, California.
Hey, Glenn. Welcome. Well, seems like it's a good time, always a good time, but especially a good time tonight to hopefully for each of us to, at least the way I'm thinking of it right now, to step out of the stream of distress, step out of our chronic habitual mind stream of stress and worry and recover the natural peace and ease that is the natural peace and ease of our nature. Easy to forget in times like this, but essential that we remember. So tonight is, as always, is about remembering what needs to be remembered in order to retain some sanity, to awaken, to feel joy, to feel alive, to feel that even in the midst of, as who was it, William Blake, or who was it who said, oh, Albert Camus said, in the midst of winter, I realized that there was within me an invincible summer. So this is a wonderful opportunity with the support of each other to remember that it's possible, it's essential that we be that we be well now, that we don't wait for the world to be well. The world only becomes well if we're well. The world is the way it is because we are the way we are. So we have to start with each of us. So without further commentary, let's at least model wellness by an upright, relaxed posture. Just say as you're settling in how happy I am to be back. I missed the last 3 Tuesdays, which is very rare for me. I'm really happy to be back. I both feel a lot of joy in being able to be here, and I also need to be here. We really do support each other. So as you settle in, let your eyes close softly. And this creates at least a little easier capacity to be secluded, which seems to be one of those elements that is essential for recovery and awakening. Because we are so easily pulled out, externalized in our lives, that we have to balance that with a sense of seclusion, just a moment at a time of coming back to that inner world, or at least including our inner world. And we feel our bodies, and we know that our body is the seat of consciousness and the place where we have senses. We have 6 senses, 5 physical and 1 mental. So we open our senses, maybe first to the sounds that are heard in the environment that you're in. And if there's no obvious sounds, distinct sounds, it may be just the sound of silence. Just opening to sound. Just it's a good start for opening our awareness to be welcoming and impartial, like the sky. And within that openness, we feel a sitting body. And in our direct experience, we find there is no separation. Even though we use the expressions mind and body, there is no separation. We practice mindfulness, we practice bodyfulness. So mind and body melt into this direct experience of sitting, touching, feeling the touch points of the rear, the hands, the lips, the eyelids. We feel the form or the shape of our sitting body that we feel as points of sensation, like stars flickering in an evening sky, like vibrating, pulsing. And just having our attention so intimate with this experience of the body, there is inevitably a calming, a settling, without trying to settle or calm. And a much more easy access to the body's experience of breathing. Feeling the lungs or the belly expand and contract. Without forcing them or directing them. Noticing this is what bodies do. It's one of the doorways of insight knowledge into the selflessness of the body, how the body breathes. It's not an egoic experience, it's just knowing and experiencing the body's experience of its own breath. And without trying to calm, just following the experience of breath, there is a calming, settling. Called shamatha, calm abiding. And if the breath doesn't feel like a safe or comfortable place to experience body awareness, feel free to just feel the sitting body and the touch points. as your home base or your anchor. Otherwise, sustain awareness of the breath as long as it lasts. Notice how the body models letting go with each breath. Just learning that natural process of release, of letting be, letting go. Notice how in this immediate and direct experience, body, breathing, sitting, touching, there's no shadow of time, past, future, even ideas of the present. There's just this signless, non-conceptual experience of breathing, direct, intimate, just this moment. Just breathing, just sitting. As I said, we sustain this as long as we can, intention to remain intimately involved in the immediate experience. But usually after a short while, thoughts arise and may not be noticed immediately, and then we end up getting absorbed or lost in thought. That happens. It's organic, natural. Then mindfulness reasserts itself. And when we wake up, we just appreciate being aware again. We don't look back, don't judge, evaluate, simply appreciate that waking up. And in support of remaining anchored to the living experience, immediate experience, we come back to our body, come back to our breath. Again and again. We also then welcome moods that may come in our immediate experience. We welcome thoughts that are noticed in our immediate experience. We notice sounds that arise and fade. Everything noticed, welcome. And we notice how everything liberates itself. Everything comes and goes on its own. We'll keep reminding ourselves that there's nothing to do about what is presenting itself and nothing to undo, nothing to fix or figure out with mindfulness. Mindfulness's only function is to notice and see how things behave. Just this moment, just this breath, or whatever becomes predominant. Don't let your mind leave your body. Feel the immediacy of sensations, breath, of life, of all the senses. Secluded in the practice, cocooned, alone, together. Just a reminder that mindfulness has no destination in time. About being aware here. So every moment is a new beginning, is fresh. A reminder that you can always begin again. So settling back into the moment, being aware, intimately supported by the body and breath. Using each presently arising experience as your support for continuity of mindfulness, imbued with kindness, just this moment. What are you aware of? And whatever you're aware of is the right experience. No need to be happy about it or unhappy, like it or not like it. Just be happy in the knowledge that you're aware of it. Whatever it is, just this moment. Such a royal treat to sit with you tonight. I know that time is relative, how fast it seems to go when things are more pleasant, and how slow it feels when things are unpleasant. But tonight for me, it was as though that sitting started and ended in a beep, in a blip. So it must have been relatively comfortable, but collected. And I know that experience is partly dependent on good company and doing it together, as I mentioned in the sitting alone together. Even according to the Buddha, the perfect alchemy for awakening, alone together. I'll read you a sutta later, but first I want to hear from you. Any comments, questions about anything you noticed during the sitting, descriptions, any topics that emerged that might want me
Well, haven't been here in a while for personal reasons, but now I'm back and I noticed how refreshing it was to hear the coming back to the moment and the guided instructions. And I found myself with like, wow, I used to sit for the whole time without even twitching. And I found myself because my sitting has been a lot shorter in my home practice, that I was a lot more restless. So I'm just really glad I came back down to earth and hopped on with you guys today. I pat myself on the back.
Yay. Glad you're here, and I hope whatever personal reasons that you've missed are easing up, and or you're finding a way of working with them.
Yes, they're good.
It's more easeful. Anyway, glad to see you, Isabel. Anybody else? Most of you have been with me before, but I almost always say that whatever your comment or description or question might be, will be of some use to someone else. So it's part of the dana, the generosity of Sangha. Samira, was that you who wanted to speak?
Yes,
Please.
that was me.
Please feel free.
So last week I did join the Tuesday night meeting, and then I joined another meeting with Tuare Salah on Thursday. And last week I felt a lot of flow. Sitting is difficult, just because of, like an overactive mind, an overactive nervous system, my body hurts, things like that. But I'm starting to work with it a little bit better. And last week I felt I had more flow just in, my intention and what I was doing. I didn't really have an agenda, but this week I feel very restricted. And I found that I needed to get up and I needed to move around a little bit, just to get some mobility in my body. And then I needed to lie down. So it was really, really difficult for me to just sit and be present. And I was just thinking about something you actually said in the retreat that you hosted last month, was about letting go and letting be. Um, and last week I had this thoughts around intention and being more mindful of intention. And this week, with this restriction that has come up in my body, I'm like, oh, I need to just be present and let things be. And that is one of the most difficult things that I face, I guess, is just allowing things to be as they are. Um, so that's where I'm at.
No, I appreciate your description of the creative response to a changing situation. And to me, I often think of the word sati, which is the word for mindfulness, but it's often accompanied with the word panya, which is wisdom. It's satipanya. And that it speaks of the inherent wisdom and intelligence that is available to us when we are mindful. When we're mindful, we can see what we need and how to respond to it. And so it's satipanya is not about staying on the cushion in, grinning and bearing it. It's wisely, lovingly responding to what your, as you call it, restrictions or whatever it is, and maintaining a continuity of attention. But if you need to move, you move.
Mhm.
If you need to lie down, you lie down. And so the important part is the satipanya, not so much following the form of sitting, even though, of course, if you can sustain sitting, that's often very settling for the nervous system. But when you
Right.
can't, you can't.
Right.
So anyway, glad you're with us in spite
Thank
of
you.
whatever physical challenges you're having.
Thank you.
Oops. Mary, please feel free.
Yes, thank you. This is the first time that I've been with you at my home. And
Your home temple.
it is. It's my altar's here, and it's really wonderful to be with you. I'm doing this on my phone, and so I can't get a gallery view to see other people's faces, which I'll have to figure out.
Really? You don't do gallery view? Oh, you can get a few, but
I get none. I don't know. I've not done this on my phone before. So
okay.
and it feels really welcome. I am really happy to be here. And thank you for doing this, Howie. It's wonderful for you to share this.
Pleasure.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is something new that I'm working with just very recently in my meditation is using a grounded space in my body to hold my thoughts. And in my solar plexus, in my lower body, to like create a space where this is where my thoughts are.
Great.
Amazing. It's very new, but it's a beautiful and very restful experience for me to do that. So I was able to do that this evening, and really makes a difference.
Right.
A
Wonderful, and glad you're here. And
Yeah.
tonight's theme, when I was thinking of stray thoughts for tonight, it's going to be about very similar to what you're practicing. So I think you'll appreciate one of the poems that I read in this regard. Anyway.
Thank you. Thank you, Howard.
Madison, please feel free.
Hi, Howie. It was a great sit. It was a long day, and I realized I could sit and eat later, and I could take that time, and it was fabulous. I have a quick question of something. If you can do it, it would be great. I have a client who's really nervous, who I'm going to see for the first time next week, and I decided if I could, and if it was easy enough, I'd like to do maybe a 15-minute body scan with her. So if you have a body scan somewhere, a meditation, I would either play it or I would listen to it and memorize it and lead her in it. And I wanted to see if that might help us um, get through her nervousness. So I don't know if that's anything that you can put in the chat or advise me as to where I would find it if you have it. If not, I can go on the internet. But I thought, oh yeah, body scan by Howie might be great if you have it.
Well, on every retreat, so I have a feeling on what's the name of on Dharma seed.
Yes.
Every retreat, and they're usually open to the public, most of the talks, there is a guided metta, guided loving kindness that I do, usually the second day of a retreat, if it's the first one, I may be doing many of them, but if the first one is usually a body metta, which is a body scan, but it's mixed with bringing kindness to your body, like each movement of your attention is like a caress of kindness. So that may be too schmaltzy for the person that you're talking about, but that's the one I know, obviously, that I've done many, many times. And otherwise, I think you could trust, you've done enough practice, you can trust yourself to guide that person using what you're actually doing with yourself in real time and just speaking how you're attending to your own body.
Then let me just ask you one quick question with it. Do you start from the head down?
I start from the head down.
Okay.
But I end with the whole body, where there's no part left out, all at once. But I start with the head, and as though the attention is lovingly cascading down the arms, gliding along the legs, gliding along the curve of the spine, the front body, the back body, the torso, the pelvic area, the sits bones, just the different parts. But so you would just give words to what you're doing on your own body. That's the secret to meditation instructions. Offer what you're actually doing.
Okay. That's great, because it will be short and it's an experiment. And I just think she might be up for it because she's so nervous. So this would be great. And so if I went to Dharma Seed, it's a guided metta
Yeah.
or guided body metta.
It'll say just the metta of that day, but any one of my retreats.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's
Pleasure.
great. Thanks, Howie. Oops.
Mary Gold, please feel free.
Hi, Howie. It's so good to see you. Welcome back. I think
Same
we
to
missed
you.
you.
Good to see you too, and your
I
usual
I feel like you.
environs. I lost your volume.
Oh,
You know what? I'm so sorry, Mary. I accidentally muted you. I was
oh, that's okay.
sorry.
No worries. I just wanted to say that, like in one sentence, you said tonight, Howie, everything that I think I really needed to hear. I've lost Howie's picture. I just have to tell you. Hello?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, now you're back. Okay. I couldn't see you though. And that you were saying, like, number one, you don't have to fix anything, you don't have to do anything, you just have to be present. But also remembering that when you do that, you are in the best place to act from in your life, from that space. And that was just perfect for me tonight.
Great,
Thank you so
great.
much.
Yeah, Satipanya.
Good reminder.
Wisdom embedded in being aware. Yeah, that's what we have to learn. If you practice enough, you start trusting that a little bit more, that you don't need to have everything figured out. It's what's needed is available to you when you're aware.
I know, but it's I think very ingrained when things are crazy in the world or in situations that you're up against, to feel like, oh, how do I handle this? How am I going to, it's kind of a natural inclination. And it was a really good reminder to me because I know that, but I needed to be reminded tonight. Thank you so much.
That's what I'm doing every Tuesday, is reminding myself. Like I say, I say what I'm doing for myself. But thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, last call, and then we'll take a sacred pause, just a moment to just fall into the silence that's always available. Unless someone, please feel free if there's something bubbling. Okay. So I'm reminded, even though I talked about silence, I'm filling it already, but I was reminded in that very micro gap, that in that micro gap where I'm not, or you're not conceptualizing, after the last thought has ceased and before the next one comes, there is a sense of there being in that space that is pretty accessible. There's a kind of vivid clarity. And that's what being aware is. It's just aware. And that gap, as they say in London, I just happened to recently be gifted a visit to London. And, in the subway, they say, mind the gap. And so in that gap, it's at first, it's just very short after the last thought, before the next one. But if you really mind that gap, it starts to widen. It's at first that very quickly a thought will arise. And that thought, if it's noticed, it doesn't interrupt the gap at all. But if it goes unnoticed, that thought spreads out into what at least in the Tibetan teachings, that discursive thinking, it spreads out into discursive thinking. And that's what the Tibetans call the chain of delusion, because we literally incarnate in a world of our imagination. And it happens very quickly. But if the effort if we make the effort to mind the gap, to just have those little sacred stops, and just notice what it's like again and again throughout the day, after the last thought has ceased and before the next one comes. And then let your body and mind just bathe in that inherent quiet and silence. Somebody, I think it was Samira, talked about nervous system. I think our nervous system loves bathing in that space between thoughts. When you notice. And don't make it a problem if you don't notice. It's more just appreciating them when they are there. So we'll just expand the gap for just a few moments. Let the last thought fade before the next one comes. Right. Thank you. Why do you think the Tibetans call that chain of that discursive thinking that interrupts the gap? Why do they call it the chain of delusion? Why do you think that is? Because in that series of, if those thoughts go unnoticed and we get carried along by that chain, we imagine that we are the central character in whatever that thought world is all about. That the idea of ourselves that exists in our thoughts, we mistake that for the reality of what you and who you are here and now. And there's clearly a big difference between the version of ourselves that plays in that story in our mind and the immediate experience of you sitting here. One is I think I can remember the last time I was here. One is historical, is related to the situation or the story of our life, but the immediate experience is not so easy to put into narrative form. It's not a story, it's an experience. And the Dharma the Dharma points to the language is the language of direct experience, not so much the language of narrative, the language of history, language of situation. It's very immediate. So that's why the first teaching that the Buddha offered to monks in the Satipatthana, he says, there's one thing, O monks, those of you who have gone forth into a life of awakening, there's one thing, O monks, that leads us to calm, to focus, to a pleasant dwelling in this very life, to the abandonment of the defilements of mind, to the ending of delusion. What is that one thing? It is mindfulness directed to the body. Because the body is here. The body is not historical, except the idea of the body is of the past, but the experience of the body is very immediate. And the experience of the body and the idea of the body are not the same. But the body, when it's experienced, is a source of calming, is a source of settling, is a balancing of our tendency to pretty much of our lives be carried along by that chain of delusion. Living in a case of mistaken identity, mistaken reality, mistaking the imaginary reality for the real thing. This is not to say, as I often try to do a disclaimer, it's not to say it's not an amazing and wondrous thing that we can think and imagine and self-reference and all the things that our mind can do. It's miraculous. But unless we actually know that our mind is doing that in real time and know what its benefits are and know what its limitations are, we tend to just fall into a case of mistaken, fall into wrong view. We fall into what's called avidya, ignorance, mistaking an idea of ourselves for reality. And because that habit is so deeply entrenched, it's essential why we practice this to develop another habit. We need remedial work, and that other habit is finding our body. And at the end of every retreat, somebody just reminded me recently that they picked this up at the end of the retreat. And it's not original. I've heard it from other teachers. But I'm not the only one, but many of the teachers recommend at the end of the retreat, because the tendency is to have such a surge of energy from having built up so much energy, because all the energy that's usually dissipated through activity and stress and talking and dealing with all of our to-do lists every day, there's a tendency for our vital energy to become diminished. It replenishes and builds up so dramatically on retreats that often when one starts to speak again and act again, that they're literally jet propelled. And often we're not really quite ready for it, because our old habits kick in, and our old habits are to with an added element of more power of mind that's developed, we get powerful discursive thinking even though there's maybe more gaps and more quiet, there's often an intense expression of stronger emotions, much more discursive thinking. And for many people, there's a feeling that they lost it. And there's a sense of getting kind of disembodied, because it's just all the winds of our energy just go up, and we're just zooming and thinking, and bad headaches, and there's kind of a crash after that. And this is not to dissuade you from doing retreats, but what we tell everyone is, when you talk to another person, once you start talking, it really gets going. When you talk to another person, keep 60% of your attention in your body, 40% in listening and speaking. Listening, or mostly listening, 40%, 60% in your body. And you will speak more congruently, you'll stay more balanced, stay more calm, you become less disembodied, less likely to have a headache, more able to listen to what is needed. That satipanya, have more satipanya if all of your senses are being attuned to what's happening to you, rather than just from the neck up and just wired. So you could say that 1,000 times, and it's always useful in daily life at the end of retreats. If we could practice 60% of our attention settled in our bodies, 40% in seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, whatever we're doing, but talking to another person, just a habit of 60-40. Now, of course, none of this is absolute. It's meant to be just a support for maintaining some balance. And I say that especially right now because the effect of getting disembodied, the effect of having our winds move up so much and getting wired and dysregulated emotionally, is that we also become much more contracted, physically contracted. And when we become physically contracted, we, instead of being able to absorb, make space for, respond to the stimulus that's inevitable if you're human, we tend to become more reactive. And then there's the tendency, especially when there's so many events that feel, and things happening in the world that feel so wrong, so immoral, so cruel, so indiscriminate, so unconscious, so ignorant, that the tendency is to get furious, angry, reactive. And that doesn't really just to, and then the tendency is not to we become so externalized. I think I said that in the instructions tonight. Our habit is to be so much fixated on what's happening outside, and then making a case in our mind. When we're reactive, we make a case for the prosecution, and we build it, and I was just talking to many people recently who were saying, God, I can see occasionally, I can see in my mind, if I'm paying attention, that it's always looking for a fight. It's having those imaginary conversations of what I'm going to say to this person or that person. And I think that's gotten exacerbated with the reactivity that's going on in the world. It's almost systemic. But it also gets exaggerated when we lose that balance of the internal and the external, 60-40, 50-50. I received from someone, and Mary Aronson, are you still with us? There you are. I received from someone a poem that, it's not exactly the language I would use. I don't, some conceptualizing heart and mind and this and that. It's a poem, so that it has its own language flavor, but I just thought that it describes us so to a T that I thought that it would be useful, and it offers in it some instructions that go along with the idea that may seem too simple, too much Dharma 101, but it's basically don't let your mind leave your body. 60-40. Put your mind in your body and your body in your mind. And here's the poem. It's from a fellow named John Rodel, and I think it's entitled The Breath. My brain and heart divorced over who was to blame about what a big mess I have become. Eventually, they couldn't be in the same room with each other. Now my head and heart share custody of me. I stay with my brain during the week, and my heart gets me on weekends. They never speak to one another. Instead, they give me the same note to pass to each other every week, and their notes they send to one another always say the same thing. This is all your fault. On Sundays, my heart complains about how my head has let me down in the past. And on Wednesday, my head lists all the times my heart has screwed things up for me in the future. They blame each other for the state of my life. There's been a lot of yelling and crying. So lately, I've been spending a lot of time with my gut, who serves as my unofficial therapist most nights. Most nights, I sneak out of the window in my rib cage and slide down my spine and collapse on my gut's plush leather chair that's always open for me. And I just sit until the sun comes up. Last evening, my gut asked me if I was having a hard time being caught between my heart and my head. I nodded, and I said I didn't know if I could live with either of them anymore. My heart is always sad about something that happened yesterday, while my head is always worried about something that may happen tomorrow. I lamented. My gut squeezed my hand. I just can't live with my mistakes of the past or my anxiety about the future. I sighed. My gut smiled and said, in that case, you should go stay with your lungs for a while. I was confused. The look on my face gave it away. If you are exhausted about your heart's obsession with the fixed past and your mind's focus on the uncertain future, your lungs are the perfect place for you. There is no yesterday in your lungs. There is no tomorrow there either. There is only now. There is only inhale. There is only exhale. There is only this moment. There is only breath. And in that breath, you can rest while your heart and head work their relationship out. This morning, while my brain was busy reading tea leaves, and while my heart was staring at old photographs, I packed a little bag and walked to the door of my lungs. Before I could even knock, she opened the door with a smile. And as a gust of air embraced me, she said, "What took you so long?" So this week's instructions settle into you. Just first, you might check in with your gut, your comfortable therapist. But then just settle in with just hang out with your lungs for a while. It's sad to think, this is a very special time, this hour and a half where we support each other together to be settled in our bodies, to remember that in the midst of winter there is within us an invincible summer, a capacity for peace and settledness. But there's so many hours, so many days in between. And they're just endless opportunities to find your lungs. Don't wait for Tuesday. This is a practice of non-postponement. This is a practice of not associating our well-being with next year or next term in our politics or the weekend. It's really it is a dharma of non-postponement. As Thich Nhat Hanh, I think, put it, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. So getting back to a sutra I promised about the beautiful alchemy of Latin. This is just how we'll end tonight, but the beautiful alchemy of being alone, secluded, alone together. The sutta that's often referred to, or at least a portion of the sutta is often referred to, where Ananda, the Buddha's cousin and chief attendant, asks the Buddha or makes a statement to the Buddha saying, isn't it true that half of the awakened life is keeping good company? And the Buddha says, not true, Ananda, it is the whole of the holy life. And usually that's where the sutra stops and people get inspired to go to sanghas or to sit retreats or, not isolate, because that's one of the main reasons our practice devolves is because because nobody does this very well entirely alone. We do it alone together, and we have to have at least enough mirroring, enough reminder, enough shared intention to keep sustaining our practice. So it's just how it works. And just check it out when you don't hang out with Sangha, either online or in person. There is a tendency to kind of drift into our own little internal world. So here's the larger sutta, and it's called the Three Kalyanas. The Kalyana is the word for it's part of a phrase, Kalyana Mita. So instead of gurus and students and teachers so much somebody who supports the Dharma, who teaches, so-called teaches or guides, they're considered not gurus, they're considered Kalyanamita, or spiritual friends. That's basically what it means. And so a Sangha is a Sangha of Kalyanamita. But the Buddha became specific in this sutta that was entitled the Three Kalyanas. The Three Kalyanas exalted by the Buddha are Kalyanamita, Kalyana Sahayo, and Kalyana Sampavanko. So this is a person who's translating. I'm substituting for the usual translation based on a description of my friend, a particular teacher named Bhante Piatissa, which seemed to come from his heart based on actual usage, feeling on the technical definitions. Such that each of the three relationships was of increasing closeness, what he called Kalyanamita, a loving friend. That's what we call each other, loving friends. So for Kalyanamita, he's actually giving me too much background. I'm just going to read the sutta here. Thus have I heard, on one occasion the Blessed One was dwelling among the Sakyans, where there was a town of Sakyans named Nagaraka. Then the Venerable Ananda approached the Blessed One. Having approached, he paid homage to the Blessed One, sat down to one side, and said to him, Venerable Sir, this is half of the holy life that is good, supporting with intimate friendship. Not so, Ananda, not so, Ananda. This is the entire holy life, Ananda, that is good, supporting, and intimate friendship. When a bhikkhu, one who has gone forth, a good and supporting and intimate friend, it is expected, if they have a good, supporting, and intimate friend, it is expected that they will develop and cultivate the noble eightfold path. And how, Ananda, does a bhikkhu who has good, supportive, intimate friend develop and cultivate the noble eightfold path? Here, Ananda, a bhikkhu develops wise view if they have a good, wise, intimate friend. They develop wise view, wise intention, wise speech, wise action, wise livelihood, wise effort, wise mindfulness. They go through each one of these and say the same refrain, but I'm giving all of them at once and then telling you what the refrain is. Here a bhikkhu develops the Noble Eightfold Path, which is based upon seclusion, the fading away, the cessation, and the ripening as letting go. We learn to let go. And he does this with intention. It's based on seclusion, fading away, cessation, ripening is letting go. So even though they're talking about loving, intimate friends, kalyanamita, still in that they're saying what a bhikkhu does, one who has gone forth, is they develop through seclusion, through the fading away, through the letting go of the defilements of the heart, of a cessation, a fading, a letting go of greed and hatred and ignorance, and the ripening of the experience of letting go. And so the combination of good, intimate, loving friends and seclusion seems like the perfect alchemy of awakening, according to the Buddha. Anyway, thanks for listening. And we have some announcements before, some really important announcements, so don't go away.
Right. Do you want to talk about the picnic, Howie, or do you
Yes,
want...
I do want to talk about the picnic. I'm very excited about the picnic. This Saturday, I actually even printed up the invitation that is in our news, in our little bulletin that came out in the email that you got today.
It's also in the chat.
It's in the chat also. And also in the chat, I'd like to invite you, if you're willing, to put your name in the chat. Did you put that in your chat?
I didn't put that in my chat, so
But I'd like to invite any of you who plan to be there, and of course I'm going to talk you into it during this next few minutes, but whoever wants to be there, to please put your name in the chat so we start to get a sense of how many people, because that will determine how much food and drink is purchased. But there will be, it'll be a summer picnic gathering for all of the San Francisco Sanghas, for the locals. So any of you, if you can be patient for a moment, who are not San Franciscans, please hang in there with us. But it's an opportunity to just bring your friends, family, pets, frisbees, blankets, and just to have that loving friendship together in a more social atmosphere in a little Sangha building. And it's a way of bringing together all the different Sanghas, because eventually we're all going to meld into San Francisco Insight Center. We're going to have a city center someday if people come together and support this. So this is one way to gather and get a feeling for supporting San Francisco Sanghas. And it's this Saturday at Lindley Meadow in Golden Gate Park, as Catherine probably put in the chat. And it's from 11 to 3. And you can feel free to bring your favorite savory dish, snack, or dessert, but there will be pizza and drinks that we will be providing, the people who organized it. And cutlery and napkins and plates will also be provided. So just if you want to bring something and want to volunteer, to contact Carrie, who is our main support person, at Insight Dharma Center at gmail.com. Insight Dharma Center at gmail.com. Again, all this is in the chat. Take a moment to sign up for the picnic on the Eventbrite site if you can too. That'll also give a sense of how many people are showing up. So there's that. And then the following Saturday, it seems like they're more rare. Initially, this was going to be an in-person half-day retreat at the San Francisco Dharma Collective in the Mission, but now it's been changed because the half days have been a little less frequent. We're going to make it a hybrid, so anyone from anywhere can join, but I highly encourage the San Francisco people to come and practice together in person. There's just nothing like the dimensionality of in-person practice. So if you have the opportunity, the option, please come, and everyone else come and pick up on the feeling that we are creating in the room. Madison, did you have your hand up?
A meditation portion of it, or is it strictly a gathering, being together, or is there an
There
actual
will
sit?
be, if you're talking about the picnic, there will be a meditation together as well as just hanging out. Yes.
At
Do you know what
1:30.
time that would be?
Around 1:30.
Great.
Thank you, Catherine. And I think Anushka is going to lead that portion of the day, and she's marvelous. So please come. But the next on the 28th, to really love everyone to come to the half-day retreat, and that there's already an Eventbrite invitation on our. Did you put that in the chat too?
The registration is also in the chat. I'm sorry, you'll have to scroll around to find all these things, but they're all in there.
Okay, great. Anyway, so last but not least, I'll just handle this. You know, we're together based on your generosity. It's kind of mutual generosity. Someone other than me or someone else offers the teachings. You, as completing the circle of generosity, are invited to offer financial support, and that's how that wheel of Dharma has kept it going for more than 2,500 years. So thank you in advance for your support, and hope you enjoy the feeling of giving when you give, because that was the first teaching that the Buddha offered to lay people like us, the experience of letting go that comes from being generous. So practice that all day long, every day, in whatever form that takes, but Tuesday nights depend on your generosity. So thank you. And thanks for being here, and feel free to unmute and say goodnight to each other. And sorry for keeping you 3 minutes late.
Thank you, Howie.
Good night.
Good night, Howie. Thanks.
Great being with all of
Thank you,
you.
Howie. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Howie. Thank you, everyone. It's lovely to be here with you all.
Sweet
Good
dreams.
night, everybody.
Thank you, Howie. Good night.
Thank you, Howie. Good night.
Thanks, Howie.
Night, night.
Thank you, Howie. Night,
Thanks, Howie.
See you Saturday or next Tuesday.
Night, everyone.
Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone. Bye-bye.
See you, Mary. Good to have you with us.
Thank
See
you.
you, Maureen. Glad to
Wonderful.
see you.
Big love. Big
Hey,
love.
Jerry.
Hey, Howie.
Bye, everyone.
Catherine, thanks again for co-hosting.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's a pleasure.
Make a difference. See you all later. Bye, Catherine.
Hey.
Katie. Love your kitty.